welcome to the very next episode of The Lair. Joining me today is Dillon. Alecia and I went through our MBA program together at Ross. And funny enough, how we actually got introduced was at the first social of the program. And somehow we got onto the topic of martial arts. And I've been practicing on and off for, too many years, and probably more off than on at this point, but it's something that now that my MBA is done, I plan on getting back to. But Alecia called BS right away and says, "You don't know anything, show me something." And so I did, and we kind of hit it off. And the other interesting thing is that, Alecia and I were never in a group together during the MBA program, and yet we always kept in communication. We had a lot of classes together. Alecia, welcome to The Lair.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
So tell me, what were your goals in setting out for your MBA?
Yeah, before I answer that though, I have one more little fun fact that I don't know if your listeners know, that Dan is technically trained to ballroom dance, and I'm a huge fan. And so if you ever have the opportunity or see Dan out in the world, have him show you some moves because they're pretty fly.
Thank you.
Just put a little plug in there for you.
Ballroom dancing it's very similar to martial arts. It's a pattern. Yeah. If you can see the pattern, of course the trick is you got to get on beat. But outside of that,
yes.
So tell me a little bit about your goals for an MBA, because you're a CPA.
I am.
So you already know quite a bit about accounting and finance, and many people just think an MBA is just more accounting.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. So the initial kind of push to even apply for my MBA was, I am currently working in athletics. So my goal was to become an athletic director someday for a D1 university. And in order to do so, a master's was a must. So I needed that, I guess, box check to even start that application process and really start looking into moving in that direction. So the ultimate push was really that. I mean, I think the timing was great. It was, I work for the university, and so it was perfect for me to apply. I could literally walk from my office to school. The other component of the executive MBA program and why I applied to that is the leadership portion. So that was something that has always been important to me. I do a lot of self-development and really try to be the best leader that I can be. And I felt that the program itself really spoke to that and focused on that. So, yeah.
So did you accomplish your goal?
I did. Yeah. It's kind of funny because you learn so much through that program, right? I was working full-time. I created a startup company, was basically working a third full-time job with the executive MBA. And I think more than anything, great, the technical learning was fabulous. This is my dog, by the way, if anyone. We have a little Zoom bomber here. While the technical learning clearly is fabulous, world-class professors, just the cohort itself, having brilliant minds and executives all across the different industries and the world. And so that discussion was fabulous. But I think above and beyond that, it was just the professional or the personal learning of what are my core values? What's important to me? How am I going to be a leader and add value to where I'm going next? Dan and I took the positive leadership course. I mean, that class in and of itself changed my perspective on so many things and how I approach people and my leadership style. So, I don't know, when you get to that point and you have so much on your plate, you start to learn stuff about yourself that you never even thought possible or thought that you were capable of. So I think just knowing that, actually finishing the program, knowing that I can do it, gaining the confidence of my skill set and what I do actually know, I think really exceeded the initial goal.
That's great. So you mentioned your leadership style and how it's evolved, what would be your elevator pitch of your leadership style now?
Yeah. So I always kind of laugh at this question because mine is constantly evolving, frankly. And it's not specific to, it changes depending on who I'm leading at the time. So even within my team, I approach my leadership style in multiple different ways because I customize it to who I'm leading. And I know that sounds like kind of crazy, but it's true. And it's very effective because what I do is I really try to understand my team, what they need. They all need different things and they are all motivated in such different ways that to have this like cookie cutter customized leadership style, I think is crap. I don't think it's effective. So I would say for me, I am a positive leader. I focus on positivity. I focus on my team. I really give my team the autonomy to do the job in the best way, to be creative. And so I would say that's probably my leadership style in a nutshell, if that even is a style. It's my own customized style.
I would say those are your foundation principles, and because of those principles, that's what's going to drive you with altering the type of message. Even though the underlying principles are there, you have to talk to this person in way X and this person in way Y. But what you're doing is you're leading with positive aspects. You're leading with empathy for the people, and that's what I think is going to continue to have people want to follow you, work with you, and to collaborate with you. I mean, you're absolutely someone that, I mean, in knowing you for 23 months, you're someone that is a joy to just talk with and collaborate with. And I think that's a good way of really summing who Alecia is. Now, you kind of mentioned you had 3 full-time jobs, and that was really, really, of course, challenging, and you learned a lot about yourself. Do you think you hit your breaking point?
Oh yeah, multiple times. Yeah. It's kind of funny because almost to the day, it was the 1st December and then the end of November of the 2nd year of our program. And you remember that first semester was horrific. It was so much work. You're not used to having a call every night or having homework every day or all these extra things. So you're basically thrown into this new environment. It's so much work. It's all new people. So you're learning, the leadership styles of 5 other people on your team. You have to learn how to collaborate. There's all these deadlines on top of doing your day-to-day job. And then for me, I think it was every year at Christmas time, my family does a lot of traditional things together. We bake cookies with all the women of the family. We have like present wrapping day. Like we have all of these really fun activities. And for me, one of my core values is family and spending time with family. And we had a final exam the weekend before Christmas, which was like the 21st through the 24th, basically. So I ultimately missed out on all of those holiday traditions and the time spent with my family. And I just remember having a minor breakdown that 1st December and thinking, what did I get myself into? This really sucks. And then the second time, this was a major breakdown where I almost decided to give up on the program, actually. It was right after Thanksgiving. And again, I didn't get a lot of time to spend with my family. Now, mind you, we've been in the program for 1.5 years of this constant pressure and deadlines and workload. And there was some financial concerns because I basically funded the program personally. And so it was all just kind of mounting one thing after another. And yeah, I mean, I had like a legit, like there was a day where I was just like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm like literally losing it. And I know that's awful. I usually can keep it together pretty well, but I told my boss, I was like, I have to go. Like I have to leave and I just need a few days to just figure this thing out. And it really was a breaking point. And I remember talking to my mom. I called my mom right away, of course. And I'm like, I don't think I can do this anymore. I gotta quit. I have to quit and I'll have to pick it up next year and do my last semester with the next cohort because I just can't do this anymore. Because at that point I had already had my startup company too. So it was like really 3 full-time jobs. I was sleeping, 3 or 4 hours a night. And so my mom was like, I don't agree with that. You have to finish this thing. So my mom was kind of the motivator, of course, which she's pretty fabulous. But I took like a week and just kind of went home, spent that time with my family, which again, is always very important to me. And by the time I got through that, I'm like, you know what? I may be down, but I'm not out, and got back on the horse and finished strong.
Well, I think that's great because all of us should learn where our breaking points are. And I would actually challenge and say, it didn't break you. So just like, you're an athlete, you've pushed yourself.
Yep.
I think if you had to do it again, or whatever your next challenge, you're going to find that you can do even more because you can get through it. You found some tools,
Yeah.
Whether that be through your support group and with your mom and others you had to do. You learned that, okay, it's okay to take a small break to recollect. I think those are very, very important lessons that you learned. And I think that's great. So you decided to start a company.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about what kind of company it is. What's the name of the company? Why did you just decide to start it?
Yeah, so the name of the company is Helio Security. And what we do is it's kind of 3 prongs. We do secure transport for the cannabis industry in the state of Michigan. We do boots on the ground, so it's actual physical security for our growers and dispensaries, as well as cybersecurity. So how I got involved, kind of by necessity, actually. So I had been talking with Donna Deloche, who was our executive recruiter at Michigan. And I was trying to come up with a creative idea. Again, I was financing the program, my executive MBA personally, and I was just getting to the point where I was like, I can't afford, I was eating like crackers and pickles for dinner. Like literally, I just couldn't afford to live anymore with paying for school. So we kind of were coming up with ideas. She connected me with women who grow. I have like a 4-stall garage, and I was like, somebody can rent my garage out. I can convert that space to a grow area. And I was just like running into dead end after dead end. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe, cannabis isn't the right path for me. But I really didn't feel that way because of all the, like we had been learning, we had been doing case studies, and I don't know if you took the entrepreneurial class, Dan, but we were just learning about the growth opportunity. It was like this once in a lifetime opportunity that was presenting itself to us as a new industry. And I felt very compelled to explore the opportunity in the fullest degree possible. So after talking with her, and a couple months later, she gave me a phone call and was like, one of my EMBA 26s, who happens to be the cohort after us, is looking for a CFO. They have an idea of a secure transport company. Would you be interested? And at the time, looking back now, I'm like, oh yeah, like a couple hours a week, it'll be fine. Like I could totally take this on. And right away I was like, yes, let's do it. And so she connected me with Mike. So we have 3 founders, Mike, Kevin, and myself. And so I met with them within a week after Donna let me know they were looking for someone. And it was like instant chemistry. We like totally hit it off. They're wonderful, amazing men. They have kind hearts. They have expertise in their field above and beyond. Just they are experts and they're awesome. And so we really just had like the dream team right away. So that's kind of how I got connected with them.
That's great. So the cannabis industry, there's a lot of, we'll just say, information out on the web. Some of it's probably true, some of it's not. I know for myself, having worked in the financial services sector, we tend to stay away from it because of federal laws.
Yeah.
Have you run into difficulty in terms of, getting business accounts at banks? What's going on with that? Shed some light.
Oh, yes. Good question. So because it's still federally illegal, the banking industry does not want our dirty money, basically. So I had gone to multiple banks and talked with multiple bankers, and they said, we can't work with you, basically. So that was a real struggle for me, especially like I'm a CPA. I like to do things by the book. Like I want all the transactions flowing through my account, all of these things. And I was like just starting to find out that the industry itself is, people are just dealing in cash. People have literally multiple millions worth of dollars, like in a safe in their basement. And that's the reality of where we're at today. Luckily.
So where is your safe at?
Exactly. Good try. But luckily, there is one bank in the state of Michigan, Dart Bank, that will work with cannabis-related companies. The only thing is the fees are very excessive. So it's very expensive to do things like right, which is unfortunate. And you have to sign a lot of disclosures. You have to do 90% of your business through them. They can come and do an audit of your business on a whim, whenever they want. They want to know all of your vendors. They want to know basically all of your business. And so in order to have that account, which in my opinion, I wasn't going to deal in cash. It's way too risky. I just wasn't going to do it. And so for us, while we lose some autonomy and the fees are very expensive, it was worth it in terms of the risk for me to set up our account with them. So we did find a solution, but not very many people are doing that. It's just, they're still dealing in cash.
I can imagine that would be difficult. So, I've only done a little bit of research on this. I'm interested.
Yeah.
And, what I found was that, in the state of Michigan, you have to apply for, a business, you have a business application you have to deal with.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as to, because all businesses need a business, license of some type in a regulated industry. Did you find it more challenging applying for the secure transport than it would be for any other type of company?
Yes, it's very challenging. The amount of information and the background checks and even the wives of our partners, anyone that you're affiliated with, all has to be disclosed. We have a full application that each of us had to do, even the wives of the founders. So it's very extensive, the application process, extremely expensive. It's over $50,000 for the application process. They come back. Every time I submit something, they find something wrong, and I have to go back and I have to redo and I have to fix. And this was another major issue that came up. We have someone who is part of the police department, and you can't, which seems totally crazy, that you wouldn't want a police officer doing your secure transport, but you're not allowed. You're not allowed to be affiliated with any governmental unit, with any like police department or anything in the state of Michigan, which seems kind of crazy, but we literally had to redo our operating agreement because of that restriction. So very time consuming, very, very expensive, very excessive in terms of the information that they request. I had to give them like 4 years of tax return information and W-2s, and you have to go get your fingerprints done. Like, they do extensive background checks on every single person that's even slightly involved with the company. So very extensive.
Would you say it's more so than a different type of regulated industry?
Yes.
Say
very much.
oil, gas, utilities.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I would.
How many times did it, approximately how many times did they keep coming back to you to correct something?
Oh, well, at least 100.
At least, wow.
Yeah.
And
Like,
how long did it take from the time you submitted your first application to the time they actually granted it? How much time lapsed?
We're still in the process, actually. We're like just
wow.
getting so there's two parts of it too. And it's been over 7 months that we've been in this. So it's very time consuming. You can do it faster. For us though, we're remote. And so initially we just did digital signatures on all of our documents. Oh no, you cannot do digital signatures, which sounds totally crazy. So we literally had to overnight documents and drive hours to go meet up with each other. I mean, it's just been a major process because of the restrictions and regulations, and they're so picky about these licenses, which I can respect that, considering the nature of the business. It's a new industry. It's still federally illegal, but it's a little excessive in my personal opinion. So.
Wow. So in the cannabis industry, you have growers, you have the secure transport, you've got dispensers. Is there any other pieces to the industry?
Yeah, honestly, I think there's a lot. There's the testing sites. So all of the cannabis in the state of Michigan, seed to sale, you have to RFID tag all of your product. One of our clients, for example, there's so many ways you could get involved in the industry. So either, through leasing real estate. So there's a lot of real estate investment going on. The banking industry. So DART is making a killing on this cannabis industry currently. I mean, people are coming from all over the country to Michigan and trying to get in on the cannabis industry here because there's just so many ways. People selling the grow product. So actually, right in my neighborhood, there is a store that just sells, they don't sell any cannabis or anything, but they just sell the material to grow. So fertilizer and stuff like that. Yeah, so I think there's a lot more to it than maybe what you just see on the surface.
Wow, it's very interesting. It sounds like, you could you could just go down a rabbit hole very quickly with any portion of this industry.
Yeah.
So, about how many dispensers are there in Michigan right now?
That's a good question.
Because I was reading, it doesn't seem like there's a lot. At least I couldn't find a number, and I wasn't sure if you knew, but it doesn't seem like there's a very many dispensaries, and it seems like it's kind of limited in the state. Like Ann Arbor is one of the ones that seems to have some. I can't remember what some of the other jurisdictions, but it was not throughout the whole state yet.
Yeah, and so that's a really good question. So on the LARA website, that's Michigan's licensing website, you can see county by county how many applications have been approved, for what type. Is it a grow facility? Is it secure transport? Is it a testing site? So you can actually see the numbers. And actually my team, we have an expert on my team who kind of reports out those, and we track them, kind of KPIs, just to see what's happening in the industry in the state of Michigan. But I just haven't looked lately, so sorry. There are 3 types of growers. So there's a class A, B, and C. And so it's 500 I think it's 200, 500, and like 1,500 plants is what like that classification is for growers. So yeah, that's a good question. I would have to look. I haven't checked in a while.
So right now, you're 7 months into this application process. So I'm going to assume then that means you're probably not doing any secure transport yet.
Not
But
currently.
how about on the other pieces? Are you providing the security to the dispensaries and the growers?
Yeah, so we actually had multiple events. So we're still finalizing because we have to have a license for each one of those. So the secure,
Oh, interesting.
yeah, so the secure transport license is its own separate application process. Then we had to submit 2 additional licenses for number 1, the like physical security, and then number 2, to be able to install and do cybersecurity. So essentially, at the end of this, we're going to have 3 full licenses. And we had, so the other 2, so the security and the cybersecurity licenses are almost complete. We had multiple events lined up coming up in the next month for events. And because all of these events are getting canceled, we're basically out of that work that we had lined up and planned on and had, cash flow projections. So COVID has kind of.
And this is because of COVID, right? You're not able to get to these events because of, the
It
COVID-19
is.
pandemic.
It
Wow.
very specifically is, which is unfortunate, and it has really just slowed down the progress of the company because we have a team, like, so on our Helios team, we have a team of 8 individuals that are working with us. And so between the 8 of us, we have multiple leads and connections all around the country. And so it's kind of funny because we had some Republican and Democratic convention security jobs coming up. So we're bipartisan, by the way. Just throwing that out there. And it's all just canceled.
Both of their monies are green.
Hey, yeah, done. We'll take it.
That's great. So your role in this company is the CFO. Mm-hmm. I would imagine, especially with COVID-19 and as you mentioned, the cash flow is just not there right now because you're not able to get out.
Right.
What are some of the challenges in addition to just, COVID-19 that you're facing as a startup in an industry that it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when it's just going to, skyrocket?
Exactly.
What are you facing? What's your day-to-day like in that? And
yeah, it's a lot of uncertainty, frankly. Luckily for us, we have created a coalition with all of the other, the larger secure transport companies in the state of Michigan. So we have a monthly meeting where we're talking about like, what's the best practice? Are we being safe? Because this isn't just about making money. It's about actually protecting the people that we're working with, the product. And so there's just a lot of dynamics that go into it in terms of what's our price point. Like, we don't want to undercut everybody and we're making, razor thin margins across the board. And so we're trying to be thoughtful in the approach of, because it's a totally new industry, it's very hard to say, well, we can do a pure play and just look at so-and-so who's doing it and get a good idea of what we should be price pointing this, It's kind of, we're creating something from scratch. And luckily for us, we have been thoughtful in our approach. We have good connections, so we're able to work with others that are starting in the same boat, and we're kind of pinging each other and bouncing ideas off of each other, which is great. So just uncertainty. There's no like playbook or rule book. We're creating something from the ground up, which is exciting, but also stressful at times because you don't know if it's actually going to work or not. You're going with the best information that you have at the time. And so it's just a lot of like being able to adapt and think quick on our feet and come up with what we think will be the best practice. And so really our value add is we want to provide premium security. We only hire professionally trained either police officers, EMT, ex-military. So we want the best of the best to be working for us, because when it comes down to it, as a security company, it's the split seconds that matter when you're getting a gun held to your head, right? So we only hire people, and so we pay a premium. So it's just been interesting. We've talked about doing different types of like subscriptions, or, you know, not just charging by the mile, but really giving this additional value add. But until like something actually happens to you or your product gets held up and stolen, it's not that high of a priority for the growers, which why should it be, right? They're like, I just want the cheapest transport I can get, done.
Yeah, and I would imagine right now that, what do they call it, the actuary tables for like insurance has not yet been created for this industry to know what the annual rate of occurrence for a robbery in the secure transport, because it's just not, it's not there yet. But there, you mentioned something in your thing, the business is about making money. We both know from what we learned, it's all about shareholder value.
But shareholder value is not just dollars, right?
I know. I said shareholder value.
Exactly. So
you just left that part out. So I wanted to make sure we added it back in case any of our amazing world-class professors, MP, if you're listening, it's about shareholder value.
It is. It is. So
what? So are you all going as your I don't know, security officer? I mean, whatever. I don't know what you call them that are doing this secure transport. Are they armed?
Yeah. So they currently are, and here's the other part of being in a new industry is there's just a lot of unknowns. So we've had to work with different individuals at the state of Michigan. We've called, you know, just to understand, because originally the law was written one way, and then things are constantly evolving and changing. Just because that's the state of Michigan law, like each individual township also is adopting different regulations and laws, and how they can opt in or they can say, no, we don't want to have cannabis in our community. So it's very, it's a touchy subject.
Well, there's a stigma. There's still a stigma attached to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There still is.
And, you know, and it goes back many years ago. Interesting that my buddy Jason that was on an earlier show, as well as we do This Life in Tech with, you know, he knows quite a bit about the history of cannabis as well. You know, it would be a very interesting to conversation with the two of you, just because, I mean, there's the stigma is really, it's all based on, well, lobbying dollars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what are some of the laws and regulations that you have to deal with as providing secure transport and, you know, the security, the physical security for the growers and dispensers? What are some of those ones that you know you have to deal with?
Yeah. So through the licensing process, they actually have like a full like playbook of all of these things for your facility and how you're securing things. And there are a lot of, I guess, best practices kind of already out there. But in terms of like what the law reads, it's a pretty light law. I don't know if you've ever had the chance, but the actual state of Michigan cannabis law is not that bad of a read. I don't know, it's maybe like 5 pages. So in terms of like legally what the state of Michigan is requiring for secure transport, it's pretty general, actually. The one thing
so they're really hitting you up then in your business application. So the law is basically saying, yep, hey, everything's granted, but you need this business application. So this way they can change that at any time from an application standpoint as what qualifies and what doesn't.
Exactly. And they do. It's constantly evolving, and they've got some things figured out. I will say that. But we do have to track every single transport that we do. So again, everything has to be RFID tagged in the state of Michigan. It all goes into a system that everything is tracked seed to sale for every single grower. And that's part of our job. Like, you have to track it and make sure it's entered into their system. So that's kind of their tracking system for the state of Michigan.
And how about the actual vehicles that are being transported? Are those tracked as well?
So we have ours tracked. It's only we have access to, it's like geo tracking. We don't share that with the customer. We don't share that with anyone clearly as a liability. But yeah, we have a lot. We have like, we're doing drones off the top. So if anything goes down, we can, enact the drone and record. And we have a full security in terms of, like, in the back, there's different, this is actually part of the law. There's different, like, you can't transport the cash with the product. So you have like all these different compartments. Some of our customers are looking for like thermal tracking. So they want to see what the temperature is depending on what their product is in your vehicle. So there's a lot that goes into the vehicle itself, securing the vehicle. We have armed guards who are driving. So it's just really interesting, actually. I've never really been involved on this side of it, but the technology piece of it all and what we're hoping to do in the future. So another thing that we're looking at doing is a proprietary software where it's basically like a disc, and the disc will like scan a room of the RFIDs all at once instead of like taking a scanner and like beep, 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 taking them all in. And that's just some of the things that we're getting creative with. And we have a developer on our team that's able to do that. So.
Oh, you could get into continuous monitoring of inventory.
Oh yeah.
Even to the aspect of the weight changed.
Yeah.
So you would know that. You would know that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think this is the industry itself is going to continue to explode. I mean, take a look at what it's doing in Colorado and in California. It's going to be a revenue source that, especially after we start, opening back up the economy, that I think a lot of these lawmakers are going to have to change their minds, because we're going to see a lot of places that are going to go bankrupt pretty quickly. And this is an industry that can really be a difference maker in providing jobs, which provides people with income, which provides our governments with taxes. I mean, we can only continue giving out billions of dollars of money that we probably don't even really have. So I think you're in a great spot.
Yeah.
But
exciting times.
One of our cohort mates has been continuously giving me tips. So he always likes me to say, all right, now it's time to pay Dr. Ford. So in this case, Alecia, what's next for you? What could be your next accomplishment?
Good question. So as you know, I do the Miracle Morning every day, where I write out my goals, and I really, it's called Savers. So silence or meditation, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing or journaling. And so I have my goals for the year. They're very specific. I'm very clear on what they are. And guess what my first goal of the year was?
Graduate.
Yes. So check that box.
Well, that's a past goal, but what's your next goal you're going to?
So I'm be patient. So my next goal actually is to get Helios up and running and get $1 million in monthly revenues by the end of this year.
I think that is a great goal to have.
Yep, it's happening. Stay tuned.
Perfect. Well, Alecia, thank you so very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. I hope you'll come back and give us some updates, and especially for us to just keep in touch. I really appreciate you coming on.
Definitely. Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, as always.